Morning, everyone. How's everyone feeling? Good? Fine? Well, I think it's going to be a very exciting panel. These guys have been working for a while now on an innovative way of putting it together, putting the discussion together. So my pleasure to introduce Alex Tohme, also known as the lady with the online underwear store. Alex is a digital strategy and planner at Burnett, and she'll be moderating the panel.
Good morning, everyone. And yes, as Omar said, we have an innovative way of presenting case studies in social media marketing today. So without further ado, let me very quickly introduce our panelists. If you want to know more about them, of course, it's all in your book. This is Patrick, Khalid, Marc, Vadi, and Zafer. Now, we had a chance to meet up earlier, the panelists and I, and we were going through some of the case studies. And then I asked them, what exactly is social media marketing? And we went through some answers. But what I want from you today is to give me your thoughts on what social media marketing is. So I'm coming down to find out some answers. Tell us, what do you think is social media marketing?
I think social media marketing is basically using social media to influence people's behavior, whether it's products they buy or what they choose to do, that kind of stuff.
And what do you think, social media marketing?
I think how the others feel about your product or service.
Anyone else with some good ideas? Yes?
It's about engagement, conversation.
And how can we measure social media marketing?
It's actually one of the best ways to measure how your brand's doing online. The best analytics you can get is in social media.
Are you doing social media marketing with your brand?
Yes.
Are you doing it yourself or are you outsourcing it?
And we do it ourselves. So we have, I work for Ericsson, we have a Facebook account, and we use that as a mechanism to share ideas.
Great. Anyone else have some ideas they want to pitch in?
Okay, social media, I think using social media channels as a marketing channel. So this is my definition of social media marketing. Well, how to measure? I think the best way to measure is the results, measuring the results. I have objectives from my campaigns, and then I can measure how far did I get to achieve these objectives.
Just about how you can measure the social media marketing, there are some metrics like likes and comments, but there is always the debate about whether your campaigning online is influencing your sales. I think this is the most debateful point that we might need to talk about, how much it is direct to the sales and how much it's not.
Anyone else? Yes?
Hi, good morning. My name is Tamer Lithi. I think the use of social media is very important in terms of defining your definition of your objective of the goals itself. So you might use it as a customer service channel where you can actually answer your fans and provide support, or you can use it as to get some sales to your brand, or to just create engagement and create the hype about your brand. And it's very important for all brands to identify these goals first and then build their strategy around it. Because if people are talking bad about your brand, it definitely will spread. So it's better for you to manage this and be able to be in these social sites to monitor your brand. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes?
Previously, media marketing, it was mass media. But the word of mouth impact during the mass media, as it was one-way marketing for the advertisers, it becomes nowadays, after the social media, it has to be more benefits for the word of mouth itself. Especially that previously it was renting a media to reach to the people. Nowadays, the people themselves can create a personal media through the social media marketing. So every advertisers and brands, it has to have their own plan for the social media marketing, to have their own media channels, to reach the people in both ways, interactive marketing.
Hi, my name is Amr. I think the social media platforms allowed startup companies to market in a very not costly way. It allowed them to target their customers for a certain demographics. I mean, you can filter by geography, geographic location, age, profession through Facebook and Twitter. And in terms of measuring, I think the best thing you can do is measure the conversion rates from the inquiry level to the client level before and after the use of social media.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. Okay, as a definition, it's using social networks, so we're talking about Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, you can go on forums, etc. And in terms of management and measurement, as somebody already said, management, you have to put goals, and you see how far you've reached, if you got there, if you exceeded, etc. In terms of measurement, there are a lot of web-based applications that you can use now. You have web influence with cloud.com can measure your influence. You have web-based applications like Hootsuite, whereby with using their shortener, you can see how many people clicked, how many impressions you got. So this is, yeah, it's close. It's not very exact, but it's as close as you can get right now.
All right, what we're going to do is we're going to ask the panelists now what they think their definition of social media marketing is, starting with Patrice.
Very interesting. We've been doing kind of like here a crowdsourcing of the definition of social media marketing, and this is kind of like part of the marketing. I think that in the word social media marketing, we shouldn't forget the actual one word, which is marketing. And marketing is about selling or promoting your product and services through different media, through different channels. The only difference between traditional marketing and social media is using social media channels, and therefore online communities and like I heard, channels and platforms like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, others. So basically, it's the marketing of your product and services using the shareability and the comments and the conversation and the engagement with your different fans, friends, consumers, ambassadors, what have you.
Basically, you know, I will take like bits and pieces of what has been said to give my own definition, okay? Everybody mentioned like social media outlets like Facebook, Twitter, blogs, forums, discussion boards, and all those kind of social media channels. And I will sum up by saying that, you know, you have the social media intelligence cycle. And we had some people mentioning like the listening phase, okay, collecting the data. Then, you know, we had the measurement, okay? We need to have metrics, you know, to really have like measure all the buzz around our brand, products, and subjects of interest. And then what I liked, it was mentioned just here, it was the engagement phase. Okay, we have to do some outreach, you know, talk to those, to our audience and those influencers, detractors, promoters. Okay, and what I liked also was mentioned just right here is it was word of mouth. It's very important to define this word is consumer to consumer interaction without any economic incentive. Okay. So, you know, basically social media is all those conversations, you know, bits and pieces of, you know, conversation that are out there, and we really need to make sense out of them. And the last thing that I was willing to mention, that was mentioned, you know, by one person there, is we need to measure that and, you know, present something to our management. But we have some hurdles on the way. It's organization and measurement, you know, and we need to find a way to have really strong metrics to show that our social media campaign resonates in you know, out there in the blogosphere, and we have like something to present to our management to tell them, hey guys, this, you know, has an impact on you know, sales and purchase intent.
We've got some good answers from the crowd, so that was pretty interesting. However, I would take it maybe to another level also in saying that although social marketing, social media marketing is, as said Patrick, only another way, another channel of reaching your potential targets, your potential clients, we think that social media marketing is, the main purpose of social media marketing is to awaken the emotions in your potential clients in order for them to take actions that you might have set in a way to be able to measure them, to track the behavior of your consumers, of your potential clients through all the channels, in order to capitalize on the fan base or on the likers of certain channels like Facebook, on your viewers or channel members of YouTube, on your LinkedIn followers and Twitter followers, etc. So, in 2 words, marketing is a way of defining your objectives to reach your clients and or potential clients, to awaken a certain emotion in them that will translate into an action, whether it is to convert into sales, whether it is to translate into positive feedback from your clients, etc. So mainly, this is what we believe social marketing is in basic terms.
Thank you. You have mentioned a very important word in your sentence. It's emotion. So I'm going to tell you a story about social media, not before marketing. It's a short story. It's not that long. And it's like 15 years ago. Like there was a small child in Turkey, in Istanbul. And the internet connection was very slow, even like slower than in Turkey and in Lebanon now. It was just a dial-up modem. You could hear a voice when you connect to the internet. And like this small child connects to the internet and then sees the websites. Like it was me, of course. And like, what did I think, like 15 years ago when I first connected to the internet? I saw the websites and then thought, how can I create something like this, This is what people think in internet, I believe. There was no term like social media or marketing, but people had their connections and the communication was going on. Like 15 years ago or 50 years ago, and older times. Now we have the connections, now we have the technology, and we can express ourselves however we want. And this is the same for the brands also. Like the brands can express themselves in their way, as long as they want, or as short as they want, also with videos, with audio, however they want, This is the freedom in internet and social media, and if you could provide these opportunities to the people and brands, then you can do this social media marketing is such a term. Thank you.
I guess social media is still a new field, and social media marketing, I guess it's still a bit early to pin a very clear and comprehensive definition of social media marketing. What I would like to say is the difference between marketing and advertising. In the old sense, advertising used to be about pushing messages and waking emotions in the target audience. And nowadays with social media, it's actually allowing us to learn much more about our target audience. And this is what true marketing is. It's first learning what the audience wants and then giving it to them. And it has never been so possible as much as it is now with all the social networks and the capabilities they're giving us. So probably social media marketing is the ability to use all the capabilities of social networks for marketing purposes.
If I may comment, everyone said part of the definition, in my opinion. What I think is the real definition of social media marketing is reaching your customers wherever they are. So it's not a certain platform like Facebook or whatever. Engaging them and create brand evangelists for your brand. So for certain products, you reach them on Facebook and Twitter. For certain products, you reach them on forums. For certain products, you reach them on blogs. So it's not platform dependent. It's not Facebook or Twitter or Gowalla or whatever. It's everything together. And there will be so many platforms to do that. So it's simply reaching your customers wherever they are, engaging them, and creating evangelists for your brand.
That's a great point. And in fact, talking about channels, I think we need to go through, obviously a lot of you have customers, you know where they are. So let's just start throwing some channels out. Obviously it's not just Facebook. Where else are your customers today? Where can we reach them? Anybody? Yeah?
You see, this is something we're trying to do ourselves, and the way we look at it, if you look at the Middle East and where the customers, a big concentration of customers are, it's mainly in forums. It's in web forums. And I gave a presentation in social media forum about this, about marketing in forums. The idea is yes, Facebook have a huge penetration here. Twitter still doesn't have that big of an audience yet. But having a concentration of customers in an area, this is what we need to do. It. You know, you'll never read about how to market in forums in an international social media marketing blog or something. This is something that has to be discovered here in the region, that has to be, you know, people have to create best practices for it and go and reach the customers. We know that there are forums like Quora, Hawa World, and others with hundreds of millions. Quora reached 1 billion page view monthly. So that's not a small kind of audience to reach customers in.
Anyone else with any channels? Yeah?
There have been also some work with like Foursquare or Facebook Places. At least I know in Jordan it has been used with awarding the customers of some coffee shops or some hotels with a number of check-ins. That's what I know regarding this region. I have a question. Do you look at social media marketing as B2C exclusively, or it can be also looked at B2B?
Great question. I think Patrick can answer this.
No, it's not only B2C. I think B2B. It's more a challenge whenever you're doing with B2B, especially whenever you have B2B to C. I look after a very big company called Cars and Family Travel, which is managed travel services. They kind of like handle customers like AXA, Michelin, Google, and what have you with the business travelers. So their customers are clients in our businesses. The challenges is more different. They don't have to be specifically on Facebook. They don't have specifically to be on Twitter. However, Twitter is very important, for example, for the business travelers. Like when you have the ash cloud, or like, for example, the catastrophe that you have today in Japan, or any kind of like snow because of the weather, an airport could be closed. Twitter could be very, very good mean to go and inform the actual business traveler that you don't have to go to the airport because the airport is closed. Call your kind of like travel agency or your travel agent or your kind of like travel manager in your company to go and get information. So that's one way where you can kind of like use the actual marketing, social media marketing platform that exists there to go and do it. But I think that in a B2B, it's going to be more on private social networks to go and put your strategy towards your stakeholders. So that could be your distributors, that could be your clients, where you cannot kind of like put all the information in the public, basically because of secrecy, confidentiality, and competitive advantage that you have. So that can go, and you still have to have a private social network, which is very similar to LinkedIn or to Facebook or to a forum, but still an online community which is private and a closed user group. So B2B is still, you know, social media marketing still applied to B2B.
Just a comment about the B2B and B2C. My company, we work in talent management and online recruitment. So we have the job seekers and we have the HR community. We usually target job seekers on Facebook and target the HR community on LinkedIn. So we use both B2B and B2C. So I think it's efficient both ways. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, mainly, I mean, for B2B, they use Facebook or LinkedIn or blogs for thought leadership. So in a sense that they position, in fact, their company as a thought leadership. So either to go and take a position lead or to go and show that they are active in this actual sector. But the actual marketing itself, operations, from an operations point of view, it's mainly done on private social network than on the public social network. That's the difference between B2C and B2B.
Yeah, I agree with you. Actually, on LinkedIn, we have the LinkedIn groups. So it's we can call this private social network because we have groups specialized for HR community. So this is where we are active with this segment. Thank you.
Great question. I'd like to just go back to the topic about forums, because when we're talking about being active on social media and social media marketing, obviously the question arises, what content are you going to put when you're interacting on each of these channels? Obviously, you don't want to be repetitive. Can you give us some examples of what content you're either creating for your clients or perhaps that they have given you to distribute on behalf of them? Marc?
Yeah, of course. I'll give you, for example, the Huggies case, which was a very challenging and interesting case in terms of, and it could be applied to various industries. Whenever you choose or you do the research on what content can be of interest to any of your social followers, whether they are on forums, whether they are on any other channel, is to be able to throw at them content where they would be able to interact and to engage. I mean, people who are already fans of Huggies, you don't need to throw at them every 2 seconds that, you know, Huggies is the best brand. They know it's the best brand. They know, for example, that they have already adopted it. What needs to be done is in terms of complementary content that could engage your users. Your users for Huggies would be mostly, for example, mothers. So what are mothers with babies or newborns interested in? Whether it is in terms of taking care of their baby, of taking care of the health of their babies, etc. So the content that needs to be strategized for a certain social media campaign needs to be well thought of, mainly in order to engage your users and not to bug them with whatever content that they already know. So it's mostly about that, about engaging users and throwing at them content where they will be able to respond and use it usefully with the product or with the whatever you are actually marketing for. So
Good answer. And Vadi, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. We mostly focus on value, like you provide content, regular content to the user, and most of the content should include a value to the user. At the same time, we also provide branded content, which could lead us to sales. There are also the backstage content, what we call. Backstage content is the content what you cannot find in the mass media. This is social media provides us the opportunity to give as much content as we can. So we provide value to the user, give them the content he cannot find in another like channel like TV or radio. So he can share his interests about our brand and about the value we provide with his followers and with his friends. So we provide content which can be shared, which can be saved, and which is valuable for the user.
I would like to add something, the person on the front row mentioned something very important. We have to target our audience, okay? And I will take an example. I will talk about telcos, in UAE or in the Middle East, in our country. And for instance, we have to make a clear, difference between, perception and fact. Because when you talk to that social media manager or that consumer insight, manager, and that person tells you that for them, they made a campaign and it's pretty, it resonates with a lot of people that talk about it. But as you mentioned, we have to target, exactly where is our audience. Is it on blogs, on forums, discussion boards, social media channels? It can also be on, video and images, Flickr, YouTube, and all those social media outlets, okay? When we target our audience, okay, we have to set measurements, and it's very important. So what I will do, when I will target the audience and have those messages, tweets and comments, and threads in the forums, basically I will look for the discussion drivers, okay? What people are exactly saying. If it's that TV, I will see if people talk about like the color, if they are talking about the design, the price, and all those different attributes to that specific brand, okay? Then what I will do is when I will have all those messages, and I will do some, I can use a listening platform, or I can do it myself and see exactly how the information evolves. Is it more positive? Is it more negative? If it's negative, I will look for those drivers in the negativity. Then my last phase, and you mentioned it really clearly, it's engagement. I need to reach out those detractors, promoters, influencers, evangelists, and I will need to take that relationship from a digital point of view to a physical one. Why not inviting them and having like a chat with them and having like that kind of focus group to have their ideas. I have to be honest with you, sometimes I will not be aggressive when it comes to engagement, because I have to respect those people. If they don't want to talk to me, it's okay. But you're totally right. I need to target, have some metrics, and at the end engage with those people, because that's where we create insights and recommendation for our clients. And at the end of the day, when I will have those feedbacks, it will create for me a return on investment, and no more just a return on intelligence, on return on information, something that is not measurable. So as we say, if it's not measurable, it's miserable, and it's true at some points.
I would give three pieces of advice on content. These are things that we've learned throughout the past year. The first thing is to start by always listening, because listening is very important. If you want to know what your audience is into, the best way to do it is to listen to them. Look at similar brands, brands that are that your audience really likes, and sort of see what the current conversations are. Try to do some searches for your brand on Twitter, on Facebook, on forums, to see what people are already saying about it. Then the second thing is about discipline with content. So many people tend to discover a piece of content that gets them a good reaction, and they keep on repeating it over and over. To avoid this, we do something called a content mix. So we do a chart, and we say we're going to ask 25% of our tweets or our Facebook statuses are going to be questions, 25% are going to be about the features of our products, 30% are going to be stuff that our followers like in general as lifestyle tips. And we try to stick to this content mix. The third advice is to be data-driven. Benchmarking really works well. If you look at other brands that are similar to your brand and see what the engagement ratios on each status update or the retweets on a certain tweet, and if you benchmark your own tweets and start looking at your own content, is it doing well when you benchmark it to your competitors or to your industry peers? That's a good technique as well.
Great, thanks for that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing which is most important, I think, when you talked about social media marketing. We gave you kind of like lots of very good examples. One thing which is very important of understanding with social media is transparency. That means you as an organization will have to accept that those conversations are going to be transparent, not only to you, to your organization, but as well to the peers and to the fans and friends and what have you on social media. And that's where, in fact, most of the actual management of companies, being banks or being kind of like B2C type of industries, accept this actual transparency, accepting negative comments and negative buzz potentially on your kind of like Facebook fan page or on Twitter and others. And that's something which, in fact, organizations are not ready for. So don't forget to be as well internally ready for social media marketing before going. The second thing I wanted to go and add is about the content strategy. Don't think that social media channels are like billboards or banners, placers. It's conversation. Your content is not advertising. Your content strategy has to be totally different and have to be redone and rethink in order to go and be adapted to this actual conversation. Whenever we have Subhiyya here in Lebanon, you don't go with the Subhiyya and start having advertising. You start kind of like having a conversation. And that's how you have to go and do it as well on social media. It's about Subhiyya. This is how, in fact, potentially, you will recommend me as a peer to go to this dentist or to go and buy this suit instead of this suit in this actual shop instead of the others. And that's something which is very important, the peer-to-peer conversation. So your content strategy is not only advertising as a billboard. You have to rethink totally the way you approach marketing and the way you approach those actual conversations and those channels.
Thanks very much for that. Can I just see, by show of hands, who in the audience is managing content on behalf of someone else? Okay, so not that many, actually. And are there any particular issues that you're having with the content? Are you doing it in both languages? Yeah, so still not that many. Interesting. Okay, I feel that perhaps there's more of a focus on the channels in social media marketing rather than the content, and most people will say you have to use this or that forum or Facebook because it has this many eyeballs. Can you give us any examples of much smaller communities that you see as social media marketing examples where the content has taken precedence over the channel, let's say? So there's not that many eyeballs, but they're very highly engaged. Who wants to lead with this?
In terms, you're asking about smaller communities that we've managed that were actually harder to reach, probably.
Yeah, with fewer eyeballs, but where the content is very important.
There's most probably maybe one of the examples that we could give are green initiatives. Maybe in terms of, for example, Love Letters to the Future, that was a project on a global basis. However, we had a very short time to market it, and to reach these people with a certain limited budget was a huge challenge. usually when you want to recruit, which we call greeners or green people or green kind of still amateurs who are thinking of going green or thinking of the environment of the planet but are still not sure about whether the actions that they can take or how to contribute to the society in terms of green initiatives, it was very hard to filter the content and to raise the interest for these people in order for them to engage. First, because they had a lack of knowledge about what to engage on, and second, it was mostly because they were still not aware of, or very little aware of the consequences of our actions to the planet. So in terms of content, it was difficult to filter this content. It was difficult to engage the people. So we had to go more through polls and through creating content in terms of edutainment, so more into education and entertainment-wise, in order to engage the users to engage with us.
Could you just explain a little bit to the audience what the Love Letters to the Future actually looks like when we see it? What is the content in there?
Can you repeat that?
Can you just explain to the audience what the Love Letters to the Future concept is?
Yes, Love Letters to the Future was a project initiated actually in Canada. The purpose of this project was to enable on different platforms and mainly on a Web 2.0 website that was creatively developed to enable people to submit their love letters to future generations through 3 different media, which is text, picture, and videos. The 100 most, and it enabled, actually we gave the platform to people to vote on these submissions, and the 100 most voted letters were encapsulated in a highly technologically advanced capsule buried in the Copenhagen summit that was that took place in December 2009. So we had a month of campaigning, mostly using as many different channels as possible. One of the most successful channels that we used is the blogger outreach, which is touching the bloggers community, the green ambassadors, which we called, which we gave them the material and everything that was needed to propagate the news and the project itself. And it was pretty successful. However, it was very challenging. It was because you're touching a niche of people that are not even converted or not even, they don't even know what you're talking about. So it's not a popular product. It's not an industry that is still widely
accepted or known.
Accepted,
yeah.
Yes.
Great, thanks for that. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add on this, which is you have a platform called Spigot, which is an ideation platform, and it's being used mainly by industries and by corporates. Whenever you have kind of like an R&D or research department and you have to define the functionalities of a product, take for example a mobile phone. You know, a mobile phone have probably 20, 30 functionalities. How many of those functionalities do we use? Probably 5 of them maximum. So nowadays, more and more, we can use the crowdsourcing, as we have done for defining what is social media marketing with UCrowd. The same thing internally, you can have this actual research department using this platform called Spigot. The advantage is you kind of like, everyone will be able to kind of put his idea about the functionality that we would like that they would like for that actual specific product. And it will funnel down, in fact, those different functionalities by the voting and on consensus. So basically the marketing department and the product manager and the research department will arrive with only few functionalities instead of 100 at the beginning, which is based on, again, on a consensus. And this is kind of like Web 2.0, this is kind of like social media for internal collaborative tools, allowing, in fact, then after that to define the product and to launch the product, which already is accepted by the consumer or accepted by the stakeholders. Why? Because this actual functionalities has gone through this actual funnel and through this actual voting process that the stakeholders went to. So that's one way as well of doing it, where in fact it's not marketing or Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, but it's still using the same type of process of collaborative tools and funneling in fact down those ideas to arrive to in fact the final bottom line few functionalities and putting them into the market then after.
Very interesting. Spigot. Okay. Anything to add to that? Yes, go ahead, Vadi.
I have an interesting case study. We have released the new album of a famous rock band in Turkey. So it was a 4-month project. They didn't have huge budget, of course, because it's a music band. And they had very valuable content because they are already very popular in Turkey and they are a landmark. So we had 4 months to release the album and then support the roadshow of the rock band. And first of all, we had started with the album content. We had the album name. So we have created some buzz in forums, in blogs, gave people information that the new album of the rock band is coming out. So it creates a word of mouth, so you don't have to spend some media budget. And then we have used the new songs, like the recording process. You share with the fans that the new album is coming, that they are recording on the studio. Every picture, every sound is very valuable for them. We have work with the band itself, with the manager, and then every detail is very important to the fan, and then they share it. It doubles the followers of the band, like in Facebook, for example, and in Twitter. If you share with the fans real-time content, it's also very valuable for them. And then we have released the album in the social media. We have created a microsite where fans can share the songs, share the content with their followers, with their friends. And if they share it, they could win a free CD when it's released at the release date. So it's also they want to be first mover, you know, when the album is released, they want to share the content, the songs with their friends. They want to be the people who are the first listeners. So the campaign was also very successful without any media budget because they are the landmarks and people share their content. And after the album is released, they had the road show. And during the road show, we used the social media content in real time. They had an assistant. When they were touring in Turkey, they provided us content before the concert, after the concert, during the concert, so we could engage with the fans. For example, you inform that they are coming to your city next day, and then they create the word of mouth, the fans. So it was a very valuable project, although we didn't have any big budget. We had the landmark, the band, and we had very valuable content which we could share with the fans that created valuable word of mouth. So it was very successful, and the album was one of the most listened albums in Turkey at that time. I think this is a valuable case study about valuable content and word of mouth.
Great example there. I want to just go back to something that Marc said at the beginning and taken some of the points from the audience. Marc, you said you want to awaken emotions in customers in order to take action. Now, the question on everybody's minds is how can we measure what is the return on investment and everything else? Now, obviously we can measure actions. We can measure a click, let's say, we can measure a like, we can perhaps count how many times someone's commented. But how can we measure emotions? And then overall, you know, how can we necessarily measure the return on investment or any of the goals that we put in? And before you answer, I actually just want to ask Zafer if he will share with us one of his case studies which delivered a great ROI, as you were telling me yesterday.
One case study in particular is about Play 99.6. Play 99.6 is an English radio station in Jordan. It targets young people, 15 to 25-year-olds. And every year they used to do a talent show for school kids. And usually around 300 school kids would turn up to the talent show. Last year, they decided to take this and socialize it a bit more. And they included a YouTube section in the talent show where the students, in order to become part of the talent show, of the Play talent show, had to record a video of themselves playing music. And depending on the number of views they got, they would actually either be in the final talent show or they won't. And this got 250,000 Jordanian views. This is a very big number for Jordan. And the concert itself, the talent show, sold out, and it was done in the biggest concert hall in Jordan. And this is the difference sort of YouTube or social media brought to a normal. So the ROI on this would be all the extra exposure, if we can quantify it in dollars, and then obviously the extra tickets they sold off.
I think another question is, of course, if we're using social media perhaps to generate or manage customer service. How were companies measuring how happy a customer was before social media tools became available, and why the focus or the obsession with what is the value of a Facebook fan? Can you explain that a little bit, Khalid?
You know, when you mentioned, before, for example, what you clearly want to know, if it's like before social media, how they measure like customer service? Okay, so to measure customer service, usually you have website feedback. Okay, people going on the website and giving their feedback, or they will have the regular market research. All the survey and focus groups at that time. And it's still going on because market research is something that a lot of brands do. But right now, to have those kind of customer service feedback, they use all, when they target their audience. I will give you an example that where we have done some customer service, but also we got some ROI, return on investment. It was for Sony. We teamed up with Sony, and they were interested to know what's their brand advocacy, brand health, online, so and also offline. So what we have done is we took offline content, all the information about surveys and focus groups, and we blended that content with all the social media content, all the buzz, online content. And we clearly saw that during the focus groups, it's more of an asking phase, okay? It's prompted. We ask the questions during the focus groups and the surveys, and so, it's a bit, directed by the client. But when it comes to social media, it's organic, it's wild, it's unprompted. So usually what we get from that is it's more candid. People are really emotional and sometimes really hard on the brand. So we clearly saw that first a huge shift between what's offline and online, but also on the customer service side, we had all those comments from the people online that we took into consideration also. And we also saw a correlation between positive sentiment and increase in sales and purchase intent. Clearly, so from Sony, the lady we worked with, were really happy to present that we call that the brand advocacy quotient, because we had some we have done some work on the brand level, and we gave a grade on the content that we collected, but also for the attributes of the TV. It was for Sony, but the TV section. So at the end of the day, that lady went back to her CMO, and were able to present clearly that there's a clear correlation between negative messages and decrease in sales, and positive messages and increases in sales. So clearly she were able to demonstrate that social media is an important part of the marketing mix, and they need to take it into consideration.
Great answer. Yes?
I just wanted to add
sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Usually people have more of a reason if they have a problem with a brand. So if I face a problem with a brand, I have more of a reason to go and basically just complain about them online or on Twitter. And our role as social media agencies basically is to make sure that we sort of empower the people who have a positive experience as well, and incentivize them to share their positive experiences. So even we see it with most of the brands before they join in, and before they join in the conversation on social networks. Most of the comments are from people who are angry. But then when they start engaging in the conversation and they start empowering the advocates and the positive influencers, that sort of shifts the sentiment and sort of neutralizes the situation. And in most cases, people just want a nice tweet or a nice direct message, and they would immediately be converted from a negative to a positive sentiment.
Okay, I have a question about if you're setting up some social media channels for your clients or your brands. I'm sure there's a lot of sites that just aren't used anymore. So maybe a Twitter channel or a Facebook page or a microsite or a forum. And it's all kind of junk, maybe it's been used for a certain period of time per campaign, what happens afterwards? What's your advice for that? Aren't we just creating more work for ourselves?
Social media is not just for Christmas. You don't just get it as a present and give it to someone for like a week. If you invest in it, it's a long-term investment and it stays.
There's, from experience and from the industry experience in social media, creating any social presence that is not maintained is actually worse than not having any social presence. Whenever you gather a certain amount of people to like you or to engage with you and suddenly you just disappear is a very negative effect on your brand and your brand's image. You were asking before, how do we know when we actually awakened emotions in people or in the people that are following us or that are liking us, is whenever these people convert to themselves being social ambassadors for the brands. For example, Almaza, whenever you have people who you have recruited 20, 30,000 people, you have engaged with them, you have posted content that is interesting. One of the ways to measure how this affected your audience is to actually see how people are engaging back with you. Meaning, after a certain time, we had people posting their pictures on the Facebook page of Almaza, holding an Almaza, saying statements about how good Almaza is with certain food, with certain nuts, etc., how they got drunk drinking Almaza. So it was, this is the way of measuring how you awaken the emotions in people, is when you convert them to themselves speaking about your brand.
Nice answer. Another thing I think we deal a lot with in the region is having a regional presence for a local or a global brand, and managing the social media marketing across different countries and territories. Obviously each country is slightly different. We covered already the content might be specific and dealt with in certain ways. I'd like to go into Patrick's study on or work with Honda across Europe if that's possible. I think that might give us some insights.
Yes, we've Honda in fact in 10 markets in Europe, and as you know, Europe has different languages and different culture, which is very similar probably to the Middle East. The most important thing is what Khalid was saying earlier on, and what eventually Marc and others were saying, is the first thing we have done with Honda is to go and listen to the actual conversation on the social web, understanding what in fact the fans already of Honda and any other kind of like internet users on social media, what they were saying about the brand, what they were saying about the products, the cars, the models. Honda had an idea of becoming a hybrid car. Whenever you go to Paris, and I live in Paris, and you ask any person in the street, do you think that what car is a hybrid car in France? They will ask you, they will tell you Toyota Prius. No one will go and tell you Honda Incite. So they, after kind of like about 12 months of getting the organization of Honda in those different countries being ready for social media, they have launched totally their model, which in fact the CRZ hybrid, which is a sports car, hybrid car, 100% through social media. The way they have done it in each of the actual market, we have engaged with 5 bloggers in each of those actual markets. In fact, we have done it in 5 markets, in 5 languages. And each of these actual 5 bloggers have engaged their own community, their own peers, regarding the project. And the project was Live Every Litter. And basically they have done a microsite. This microsite, Live Every Litter, was supposed for internet user to go and submit ideas about the journey. So the internet user will say, I want to go from Paris to Milano, going through the Alps, driving this actual CRZ. And on the road, I would like to go and see my mother-in-law, or I want to go and see my sister, I want to go and see my friends, when I'm going. Basically, 1,200 journeys have been submitted. 13 of them has been selected all over Europe. And those 13 users have went and drove the car. What is funny about this story was that the actual idea was to make a documentary about this actual car. No, it was about the journeys. It was about the human. I showed yesterday someone this actual teaser, this actual video and this documentary, and for 5 minutes, only 2 seconds at the end, you'll see the car and the logo of Honda. All the rest, it's about human people. And that's something which is very important, is wherever you go, we talk about fans, we talk about communities, those have to be local communities. You don't kind of like act the same way in Paris and in Marseille. You don't do the same way in Beirut as you do it in Dubai, etc., etc. So community management is something which is very important, and community engagement has to be local. And you have to go and get into the culture of those different people. And at the end of the day, the brand in your product has to have a human face. So if you kind of like push only a logo and only kind of like a product, consumers already in general, if they like your Facebook fan page, if we take that as an example, they like your brand, they like your product. But you have to go and give a human face. And that's what we have tried to do, and this is what we succeeded by doing with Honda, is giving in fact these human journeys about these different trips that those people, 13 people, has done. And that was very good success because all the cars that were launched in June were pre-reserved, and that is a good, very ROI as an example as well.
Congratulations, very nice story. We're coming to the end, so we have time for maybe 2 or 3 questions.
I would ask about the startup companies and unknown products, how they can start socializing their products for certain people and no one still exists, no one still know that there exist. We have a solution for let us say that we have IT solution has made for IT professionals. This company is new. Still the product in the beta version. How can I start my social media marketing to reach these people and let them know about my product?
This is, could you just give us a little bit more information? Who is your target audience and where are you based?
I'm based in Jordan.
Okay.
I'm targeting IT professionals in the Middle East, India, and South Africa.
And your services company?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's put that together, panel. How should he set up his social media marketing?
I would, one very good tool that's available to you is Twitter. So you can probably search for your potential customers on Twitter. They must be using some keywords. They must be using some products. You can start by following them, and they would probably follow you back, and they would know that you exist, and you can do this for free. So you can use your competitors. If your technology is a better solution to an already existing technology, you can start by searching for the existing technology. Look who's talking about it in your region. Follow them. They'll probably follow you back, and they'll get to know about your product. Just make sure that you write a very good bio that sells your product in a couple of words, and they will be interested and they will check your website if your product adds value to them. Twitter is...
What about the content side? Marc, do you want to take that? Where can he put that content?
I would add to Zafer also, it's a great channel to use, and also there's the LinkedIn channel that can be used in terms of searching for professionals who take decisions into maybe adopting one of your services. Following or being friends with on LinkedIn with people who are in the same domain as yourself does not usually equal increased sales or increased leads. You have to be friends with people and follow them and engage in groups that contain people who are your target, your clients, your potential clients. It's always difficult for a new product to start, given that there's no credibility yet to the product that was built, there was no awareness, etc. So it is very difficult for, there's a misconception in social marketing which is that if you don't have a certain amount of followers, you're failing at it. This is not true. It depends on your products, it depends on your objectives. Social marketing campaigns that grow organically with time are more solid than ones that grow quickly and just dissipate. For example, one of your the services that you're offering could be You can reach your potential clients through LinkedIn, through
Absolutely.
Twitter, through different forums that talk about IT solutions, although you should always be careful and not to get into the marketing connotation into the forums, or you will be kicked out very fast in terms of spamming, etc.
Absolutely.
And just marketing, which is something to follow up on.
Your biggest asset would be the first people who try your product. That's your biggest asset. You have to empower them. If you don't have good presence, how can they share their story, their happy story about using your product? And it's so difficult to find the first people to test your product. So make sure that you empower them. Make sure whenever someone uses your product for the first time, those first few hundred that use your product, to give them the tools to tell their friends about your product as well.
Okay, what I will add to that is also for each and every market you are interested in, look for all those blogs, like professional ones around tech, tech blogs. Also all those forums, okay. Contribute, post, if there's an interesting article, post something, but something innovative, something, that brings value, something that people can act upon it, okay. And also look for those forums. Create like a Facebook fan page, just to have more visibility, out there, in the blogosphere. And link each and every page. That brings more people, around your brand and or around your products, services.
Great. One more. I know there's millions here. Okay, maybe just one more at the back there.
Actually, I have a note about starting a new startup with social media campaign. One of the most important thing is to find a viral component to go to social media and to promote yourself through this viral component. For example, if you are first something or the biggest something or first Arabic website that do this, then all people in social media will retweet your tweet, will start spreading the word about you. So that's it.
Okay, I think we're right at the end of the time limit. So I'd like to thank the panelists for a lot of interesting stories there, and thank you, audience, for being so engaging at the beginning. I'm sure they'll be happy to answer any more of your questions. Thanks very much.
Thank you.